This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. We are presented by Modelo. And normally, sitting next to me is James Westling, a proud alum and graduate of Kansas State University. So he's going to be hugely disappointed to miss our conversation right now with Casey Alexander, the new Kansas State basketball coach, joining us here for the first time on Big 12 Radio. Coach, how are you?
Hey, I'm great. How are you?
Doing very well, thank you. Excited to talk with you today, and welcome to the Big 12. A Belmont grad and a former Belmont coach, coached at Stetson, Lipscomb, and Belmont. So why now at K-State? Why was the time to take this job?
Yeah, great timing for me. I've been asked that several times, and obviously clear recognition that Kansas State holds a great place in our basketball history, man. A lot of tradition there, a lot of people that love that program. Just really excited about it. The chance to join the Big 12, play at the highest level, just everything that you can imagine lined up perfectly for me, professionally and personally. It's a good time for my family to make a break like this, and so really excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, the number one thing that you look at with you and your teams in the past have been offense and just how efficient your offenses are. I think I looked at it. Your seventh leading scorer was at 7 points per game, and your leading scorer is at 15.6 points per game. So when you look at some of the teams, where there's so much variance between those, like how do you have so much consistency across your scoring?
Yeah, a couple of things. One, we generally play a deeper bench than most teams. We play with so much tempo offensively and a lot of inconsistent movement throughout possessions. It's hard for our players to eat up heavy minutes. And so we play a deeper bench. We want to keep guys fresh and in rotations. And really, the offense is kind of it's an equal opportunity for everybody. It's not a situation where we've got a dominant point guard out there, receiving ball screens throughout the possessions, or we're running a set play for our best shooter. It's pure motion, a lot of ball movement, a lot of player movement, and everybody has the chance to make the plays that they can make. Now, clearly the cream rises to the top, and when it's all said and done, we figure out who our best players are and our leading scorers because they create the most opportunities for themselves. But there is a lot of balance, and we want it that way intentionally.
Is that a product of familiarity? How difficult is that to build with a brand new team?
Well, it's more difficult, and anytime that you have a significant number of new players, and in this case for me, everybody's new. But even for Kansas State, everybody's new except for one, and so we have a lot of work to do. But there's plenty of time to do it. We start June 1st, and that's about 6 months for us to get ready. If you can't get a team ready to play a game in 6 months, then we need to be doing something different. But I'm excited about that challenge. I think it'll all come together. You accelerate that process by who you recruit, and what their strengths are and how they fit your program. You can jump right in and cover a lot of ground quickly.
Yeah. So what did you look for in recruiting? What did you look for in putting together your roster?
Yeah, exactly what I've discussed. I mean, we're pretty determined to make sure that we construct the roster and build things the way that we do it. We're going to play the same style. We're going to have a similar profile for guys on our roster. We want unselfish players. We want high IQ players. We want guys that really understand the game. We want great teammates. So those things were paramount when we had to go find players. And we feel like we did a really nice job of that. Not only just getting guys that can win games at this level, but also having some depth at each position, having real quality across the board. I don't know how many A players we have and first team All-Americans, but I feel like we've got a really competitive group. Time will tell. I'm not naive. I know how great this league is. I know how difficult it is to win games. I know there's NBA talent on every roster. So we've got our work cut out for us. But again, really excited about it.
What do you think has changed maybe stylistically in college basketball over the last 5-6 years?
Yeah, I think the European influence has made the game much better. I mean, I think you're seeing it the way that we've played forever. There are more and more teams playing that way now. Without true low post players, with a lot better spacing, a lot better ball movement, guys playing together. I think those things have really improved our game, and therefore the IQ, the skill level, especially on the offensive end, those things have really improved across the board and at all levels.
Yeah. What about defensively? What's your approach defensively?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm glad that you asked that because I do get asked about offense a lot, not a whole lot. And my response is usually, something along the lines of, we've won a lot of games through the years and a lot of championships, and you can't do that without being good on both ends of the floor. We're pretty simple. I will say that it'll be largely man to man and very, very not complex at all. Our only job on the defensive end is to keep the other team from getting great shots and limit those shots to one opportunity. But it is important that we have guys that can play on both ends of the floor, though. I think the style of player and the profile that I've already mentioned on the offensive end is also conducive to what we're trying to do on the defensive end. We want guys that understand scouting reports, personnel, understand how to guard actions, can make changes from game to game or even within a game. Guys that really play for each other, selfless players. That's how we build our team defensively.
Casey Alexander, the new basketball coach at Kansas State, 10 straight 20-win seasons, a career record of 303 and 180 across Stetson, Lipscomb, and Belmont, with a 627 winning percentage and 6 conference titles: the Atlantic Sun, the OVC, and the Missouri Valley Conference. I'm curious, when you make the jump like this, how much time, if any, have you spent sort of doing a deep dive on the rest of the Big 12 and some of the schematics involved there, or is that something that kind of comes as you get more prepared for the season?
Yeah, that's a work in progress. It's not anything that's concerned me on the front end. I think you take a job like this, and you better stay true to who you are and do things the way that you do them to give yourself the best chance to win. But we will familiarize ourselves more and more as we go. We've definitely talked about it. We got a lot of data. We've seen some video. But the deep dive part of it doesn't concern me at all at this point. That's deep into the summer or even into the fall before I worry too much about that.
As someone that's spent a pretty significant portion of your life in the state of Tennessee, I'm curious, is there a Tennessee style in basketball?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that at all. I think there's, like most places, there are a lot of great coaches here, a lot of good teams in this area. The University of Tennessee's had a great run here with Rick Barnes, and Vanderbilt right down the road from Belmont has been very good here lately. Belmont's had a long, longevity of success. And so, we're all a product of what we see from others. You have to be yourself, but at the same time, you have to learn and adapt and make changes. And we'll continue to do that, whether we're in Tennessee or Kansas.
Yeah, but, beyond Rick Byrd, who, is your former coach at Belmont, who are some of your influences, and how has Rick Byrd influenced you?
Yeah, I mean, I spent, 20 years, I guess, with Coach Byrd, played for him, and then was an assistant for 16 seasons. And to this day, I speak to him weekly. We live a mile apart, very close. And so nobody's had a greater influence on my life, really, or coaching life than he has. And I say that proudly. I mean, he's a man of great character, a Hall of Famer, won over 800 games. So I was the lucky one to get to learn from him and be a part of that program for so long. So anyone else pales in comparison. But like most athletes, all of my coaches had great influence on me. I kind of learned the game as a product of the Don Meyer system, and then that name may not be familiar to a lot of people, but Don Meyer was the coach at Lipscomb for a long time, and also a Hall of Famer, won 800 or 900 games himself. And he probably had as much to do with influencing coaches across the country as anybody literally in the history of the game. The guy was a machine. So, and one of his best players was my high school coach. And, so I'm heavily influenced from that side of things as well.
Belmont and Lipscomb are rivals, right?
Yeah, as big of rivals as you can get, 2 miles apart, same street. Yeah.
So how difficult was that to go coach there?
Yeah, it was strange. I won't lie to you there. It was very, putting on those colors for the first time was a little bit awkward. And all of the Belmont people were curious as to how I could possibly make a decision like that. And all of the Lipscomb people were curious as to how they could make a decision like that. But it turned out great. I had 6 awesome years there. We had our first NCAA tournament appearance during that time. We had a championship game, NIT, in Madison Square Garden against Texas during that time. So it was a good run.
What aside from basketball, what are you passionate about? Do you like to go fishing? Do you like to golf? What kind of things you like to do outside of basketball?
I'm a sports junkie, so literally, I watch a ton of games and pay attention to stats and standings and everything else. Baseball's my first love easily. Pay close attention to that. I'm a Cubs fan in a roundabout way. So those things are important to me and my family. We spend a lot of our time wasting it watching games and talking about games. But I also love to go off, get outside, and walk 18 holes anytime that I can, which has been few and far between here lately.
Yeah, I was going to ask you who your baseball team was. I know the Nashville Sounds, the Cubs. Is that just the WGN influence?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, growing up here, spending my summers, like a lot of people in my generation, the 110, 120 games on WGN. My whole childhood, it was pretty easy to like the Cubs, and then you start parlay that into trips to Wrigley Field, and it's pretty hard not to be.
Yeah, so I grew up in Chicago, but I'm a White Sox fan, and I went to Kansas. So we've already got two things that are at odds with one another. And we got a huge series this weekend, man. I'm excited. Cubs and White Sox. White Sox are actually playing good baseball, so it should be a lot of fun this weekend with the Cubs and White Sox and two teams that are playing good baseball right now.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I saw one of those games last year, as a matter of fact. I've been to Old Comiskey. I've been to what was New Comiskey and whatever they call it now. I've been there several times.
I still call it Comiskey, so I can't keep up. I think it's called Rate Field now. Yeah, it's awful. At least Wrigley is easy to remember. And then what about, like, other teams that you've rooted for growing up? You said you're a sports junkie, so, like, the Titans, is that a big team for you? And then who else have you rooted for?
Yeah, for sure. Titans and the Predators in the NHL, both Nashville teams, and we follow those teams closely. And and beyond that, it's just big picture. I've never had a favorite NBA team. I've got a lot of family that I would say are University of Tennessee fans. Just they're about 3 hours away, and a lot of graduates in my family that have leaned that direction. But I'm a K-Stater all the way right now. I can assure you that.
Yeah, for sure. Casey Alexander, the new basketball coach at Kansas State. I know Kansas State fans are really excited about you in this upcoming season. A proven winner with an incredible track record, 10 straight 20-win seasons. Coach, thanks so much for your time. I look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks at the spring meetings. Take care and enjoy your summer.
Sounds great. Thanks, guys. Look forward to doing this again.
Yeah, thank you. Casey Alexander joining us here on Big 12 Radio. Said he's a sports nut. Just can't stop watching sports. He and his family are huge sports fans, so whether it's basketball, baseball, football, whatever, they're all in. He spent majority of his life in Tennessee, in the Nashville area, growing up there, coaching at Belmont, playing at Belmont, coaching at Lipscomb. Stetson's in Florida, so he spent some time away from Tennessee when he moved to Florida. But Kansas State, is getting a proven winner here. And, when you compare the coach now to their previous coach, it seems like polar opposites. Like Gene Taylor went into this, the profile of Jerome Tang is what I'm not looking for, which is, he hires Jerome Tang, longtime assistant coach, didn't have a proven track record as being a head coach. And you're hiring a guy in Casey Alexander now that's longtime head coach in college basketball, 15 seasons as a head coach, over 300 career wins, proven track record, and a guy that's probably more substance than flash. So should, I think, make K-State fans really excited. All right, there's Casey Alexander joining us here on Big 12 Radio. This is Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. We've got Drew Mestemaker. If you missed that interview, I promise you're not going to want to miss that. Coming up on the way next, the winners and losers of the NBA Combine. Whose stock is rising, whose stock is falling, all of that on the way next. It's Big 12 Today with Big 12 Radio on TuneIn and Big 12 Studios.